Hi, this is Jacqueline with Sound Body Wisdom. And in this podcast episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about the nature of comfort. I've been thinking about what each of us does to create and move towards or away from comfort in our lives. What role, if any, sort of the predictability or the familiar plays in this, and to what lengths we'll go to maintain comfort by avoiding change. So, the comfort I'm thinking about is it's not whether or not you have, a warm enough coat or a firm enough mattress. I'm talking about our internal climate of comfort that happens in relation to our thoughts or our feelings or our perceptions of ourself or our life or our habits. One of the really cool things about the nature of this type of comfort is that when we start to experience discomfort, it can often mean that we're on the precipice or the fringe of personal change, or shifting some limiting belief or an unhealthy habit, or maybe letting go of a set of patterns so that we can actually move towards something more nourishing in our life. Unfortunately, we can often confuse change with unhappiness, and we'll just try to cope with not feeling happy while trying to altogether avoid change. But if we stay with it and we don't try to avoid what we're experiencing, discomfort can be a sign we're getting close to the tipping point of this change. Our seeking of comfort, both consciously and unconsciously, it has a great influence over how we act and how we feel. Comfort in creating patterns of predictability in our lives, it's a way to create security, especially in times when we feel a lack of it. This can take many shapes, but some of the more obvious ways that we design this is through the work we choose or the friends we keep, choices in our routines, or our emotional reactions in interpersonal scenarios that we play out. We tend to seek and discover comfort in maintaining certain habits, whether they're nourishing for us or depleting. Maintaining our comfort and avoiding discomfort, these really are powerful motivators for who each of us becomes and how we live our life. I feel our human condition, it really strives for comfort, and quite often we have found and maintained it through culturally conditioned patterns. Our concepts of comfort are deeply informed by societal norms and status quo in ways that are both obvious and also imperceptible. Think about your ideas of comfort when it comes to situations of where you live, the things you do, your social connections, how you see yourself, and what part of your emotions you're even willing to acknowledge. Where might you see these are informed by culture or social influences? Truly, there are many factors that drive our sense of comfort, our personal comfort, and our avoidance of change. And, our responsibility is really to learn more about these factors and bring our awareness to the details. Comfort and the familiar, they really allow us to feel safe, and they offer us a sense of stability. And the flip side of this is the place of feeling discomfort or insecurity, and this is really not a place that most of us like to linger. We generally find ways to move away from these experiences, sometimes by extreme measures and many times just by maintaining our patterns of the familiar and the predictable. Generally speaking, I don't often see people consciously seeking out and moving towards, ideas or emotions or places that might bring qualities about themselves into question, or uncertainty about choices or mindsets or things that instigate change. And, this makes sense, as I think there can be a certain amount of fear that accompanies change. We like to rest assured that some things are, matter of fact and cannot be questioned. We learn that, not having the answers or change or permeability, that these aren't favorable qualities. Uncertainty is not synonymous with comfort, but it is ripe with possibilities for growth. Our life and being human, it's filled with unknowns. It's filled with change and uncertainty. By nature, all of this is inseparable. And to be honest, I think we've kind of given discomfort a bad reputation, perhaps overlooking the potential within it if we can meet it with curiosity, kindness, and just an openness. We will all go through changes in life to varying degrees. And depending on if we invited the change or not, we're going to have different responses to it. But whether or not we have chosen what's happening, we actually do get to choose how we perceive the discomfort of this change. Our awareness and choice can allow us to open ourselves to our discomfort being a tool for potential growth. We can learn that it's unavoidable, and our relationship to it is really a matter of perspective. I know what it was like for myself during one of the most potent times of change in my life. I felt like I was drowning, and I think I probably would have done anything and grabbed at anything to stay above water and really just hold on to any familiar concepts of safety and comfort. I felt desperate, and I wanted to hold fast to all ideas of me and my life. But circumstances, and I'm sure some part of my unconscious self, they conspired to challenge me on every level. I fought hard for my constructed perceptions, and at a certain point, I realized I just needed to try something different, something radical. I had to surrender to the unknown. I had to stop clinging to an idea of comfort and safety and allow something truly new to emerge. And at first I was afraid, but the surrender that came, it gave me a permission to just make peace with the unknown. And, I soon realized that the discomfort was really part of a needed change and an evolution in me. And to be honest, while I was in this process, it was unbelievably uncomfortable and not easy by any means. But through that time and the practice that followed, it's gotten easier to be with discomfort and the inevitability of accepting the unfamiliar. I found that uncertainty, it's just another aspect to living that really has something to offer. So, yes, that story is sort of at the extreme end of discomfort and change, but any shifts, they can push our sense of comfort whether we're conscious of it or not. It might be letting go of old habits of feeling bad about yourself, or taking a new job that will nourish you more, or letting go of a friendship. We avoid so many choices that will bring us discomfort and changes that might be nourishing for us, and we sidestep the unknowns as we try to maintain safety and avoid vulnerability. More often we'll gravitate towards the familiar because it's a known factor, even if it isn't healthy for us or it impedes our growth in a particular direction in life. So I know that if my circumstances hadn't been this sort of perfect storm, I probably would have gladly sidestepped and played it safe. I would have chosen the familiar, I would have chosen comfort. But here I am now, and what unfolded for me was a new relationship to the unknown, a new relationship to discomfort, and a personal landscape of questioning and being present with both elements of comfort and discomfort equally. Which is what brings me to wonder, what would happen if each of us chose not to avoid discomfort or these feelings of insecurity? What would happen if we chose to move towards our fear and simply be with our discomfort and the unknown? What if we move towards vulnerability? In many ways, it's easier to continue with what you already know, to create and maintain comfort and a sense of security through holding on to what's familiar. We're quite skilled at distracting ourselves, just enough to avoid addressing things that question the familiar and perhaps invite discomfort. The interesting thing is that we can't deny the ever-changing nature of the world around us and the evolving nature of the self. When we try to maintain and stay attached and not allow space for change, this resistance can create a tension that, ironically generates more discomfort, even though we were trying to avoid it. So I've become curious as to how we might create a comfort that exists deep within us. The comfort of just being you in the world, and in your own skin, a relationship to the unknown, and having a sense of fundamental security within yourself, no matter what. This is a comfort and security it's not based on anything external. This personal form of comfort, it comes from our ability to accept change, the unknown, and to snuggle up close to discomfort to see what it has to offer us. And growing this core sense of comfort, it really comes from developing our awareness, our curiosity, and our kindness so that we can meet any changes in life. The practice of the self, it helps us rewrite our maps and find new ways of relating to ourselves and to our life. So I'm curious, have you ever experienced the discomfort that comes with change? And how did you meet these events, and where did the journey take you? In what ways do you notice you might avoid discomfort, and what would be some practical ways to move towards discomfort or invite change as a path of nourishing yourself? Just see what your awareness and curiosity show you. You never know where it might lead. As always, thanks for spending this time with me. This has been Jacqueline with Sound Body Wisdom.